Today we are getting a sneak peek of the Peterson Museum's incredible new Hypercar exhibit. If you haven't been to the Peterson, it's one of the most impressive automotive collections in the world. Everything from movie cars to classics to new impressive hypercars. They also have a really cool Instagram, so give them a follow. Well guys, here we are at the Peterson Museum's insane part 2 of their hypercar exhibit. The word hypercar dates back to 2005 with the release of the original Bugatti Veyron. That car took the world by storm, over 1,000 horsepower, $1 million price tag. Nobody had seen anything like it. Fast forward to 2022, and almost every major manufacturer has a hypercar of their own. And some of the most exclusive and incredible hypercars are on display here at the Peterson. Starting with the latest version of the Veyron, the Bugatti Chiron. But this isn't a lowly standard Chiron, this is the Chiron Pure Sport. The Chiron Pure Sport is of course based on the Chiron. It's got the 8-liter W16 quad turbo engine making 1,500 horsepower, but this one is more track oriented. It's down 110 pounds over the standard Chiron, has more downforce, and it has tighter gear ratios by 15%, leading to quicker acceleration down low. You'll notice at the back of the car, it's got a radically different rear end, really cool wing. Check out those exhaust tips. This is the car that you would take on the track out of any Bugattis ever made. Still 1,500 horsepower. Now, interestingly enough, top speed is down from its 280 or 300 mile an hour potential in the Super Sport to only 217 miles an hour because it's got that added downforce and it's meant to go on the racetrack. I love the little cutout designs inside the interior, the Alcantara. Look how gorgeous that steering wheel is. And those seats are unbelievable. Quick way to tell the Pure Sport from the rest of the Chirons, that wing on the back, also these vents to let out high pressure air out of the wheel arches for increased downforce. It's also got a widened horseshoe design in the front, and look at the size of those air intakes for cooling. I think this and the Devo are the best looking Chirons ever made. Next up, we have the Hyperion XP1. It is quite possible you guys have never heard of this car because this is the only one in the world. It's actually powered by hydrogen and has a claimed 1,000 mile range. Allegedly, it can do 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds, and the design language is absolutely insane. I've actually never seen a car quite like this. Take a look at the rear center stacked exhaust. That is pretty darn cool. I imagine water spits out there, given the fact that it's a hydrogen car and doesn't have an internal combustion engine. Crazy design on the side. They refer to these doors as V-wings, which will hopefully open up in a little bit. Massive glass canopy. I mean, you can see out from every single angle in this car, and I love that swooping curved design on the side. Next, we move on to the Lamborghini Seon, Lamborghini's latest hypercar. It's based on the Aventador platform, but it actually has a hybrid powertrain. The Seon has a 6.5 liter V12 from the Aventador SVJ, but it also has a mild hybrid system attached to the transmission itself to boost power up to 808 horsepower, making it the most powerful production Lamborghini ever made. They only made 63 of these to honor the original founding year of Lamborghini back in 1963. The rear end design of this car is absolutely insane. Check out the shape of those exhaust tips, the shape of the taillights. Now, typically, Lamborghini uses their hypercars as almost a case study for the future V12 supercars. The Reventon kind of paved the way for the Aventador, and the Seon will likely pave the way for the Aventador's successor. We've seen spy shots of the new hybrid Aventador replacement, and it does have similar Y-shaped lights and similar cutouts on the side. Hopefully, we get to see one of those soon. Check it out, taking a look on inside the Seon, we've got those signature Lambo scissor doors that come on all their V12 variants. Carbon fiber everywhere inside the interior. Look at those insane racing bucket seats. Carbon fiber behind the seats, and you'll notice Illuminated there is the supercapacitor that stores the energy for quick bursts of acceleration, and particularly adding power supplementally in between shifts. Taking a look down in the interior, we even have an infotainment screen in a hypercar and a nice little symbol that says 1 of 63. Next up, we've got the only track-only car in the exhibit, the Ferrari FXXK Evo. It's based on the legendary LaFerrari, only this one is better in every single way, other than the fact that you can't drive it on the road. Although I guess if you got enough money for one of these, maybe you could figure something out. Powered by a 6.3 liter V12, it makes 1,036 horsepower. It's of course down on weight from the LaFerrari, but the craziest part is all of the aerodynamic additions to this car over the base LaFerrari. Check out that front splitter, those crazy carbon fiber dive planes. This isn't just red, this is red exposed carbon fiber. Center lock racing wheels, and one of the craziest parts of the entire car is the rear end. Check out that rear wing, shark fin, and rear diffuser. I love how the rear diffuser sticks out way past the end of the car with those elements that dive down right there. How cool is that? Stationary rear wing, doesn't have active aero in the back, but this provides way more downforce than the standard car. Coming on the inside, look how cool the racing-inspired steering wheel is. All of those different buttons. Check it out, it even has a rain mode. Imagine driving this thing in the rain. Head restraints for those bucket seats, which are fixed in place, and like the LaFerrari, the pedal box is the only thing that moves. So that moves forward and backwards. The seat is custom fabricated for each individual owner. Definitely one of the coolest cars ever made. Behind me is the Ken Cars Code 57, and there's only 5 of them being made in the entire world. The car starts at a cool $2.5 million and has a really cool history. The creator of this company actually used to work for Pininfarina. You'll recognize the name Pininfarina as they are the design house for some of the most beautiful Ferraris ever made. In fact, the creator of this car was responsible for the design of the legendary Ferrari Enzo. Check out those crazy doors and this absolutely stunning interior. And it's a manual. So this car is actually based on a Ferrari 599 chassis. It's got the 599's V12, only power is bumped up to 702 horsepower. Get a load of that. Inside the exhaust, there's actually 4 individual tips, a massive rear diffuser. Pretty wonderful design. Very, very unique. I love the fact that you can see all of the tires through those vents right there. It's almost like an open-wheeled race car from the back, and you can also see the exposed V12 engine poking out over the hood. This is the Zenvo TSRS, which a lot of you guys are familiar with because my good friend Tim, aka Shmee150, just took delivery of his very own. The Danish hypercar manufacturer Zenvo has been making waves in the automotive industry. It's got a 5.8 liter, not twin turbo, but twin supercharged V8, making 1,177 horsepower, with a curb weight of only 3,200 pounds. But the reason people are talking about the Zenvo is this wing right here. People have seen active air brakes where the wing tilts forward to help with deceleration, but nobody had ever seen a wing that tilts from side to side. Check this out. We've got hydraulic actuators here in the back where the wing itself can actually move in this direction to change downforce over individual wheels. So if you want more downforce over one side of the car versus the other for cornering, it goes in the opposite direction, which is pretty darn cool. Love the blue carbon fiber exposed accents, nice roof scoop on the top there, and check out the interior. A lot of times hypercar manufacturers, small ones at least, don't do the greatest job with their interiors, but Zenvo did such a nice job with this car. Look at the contrasted blue stitching. That steering wheel looks fantastic. The paddles in fully exposed carbon fiber. Nice size iPad for the infotainment screen. Pretty darn cool. Behind me is the Koenigsegg One To One, the first ever mega car according to Koenigsegg. The reason they call it the One To One is because of its power to weight ratio. The 5 liter twin turbocharged V8 makes 1,360 horsepower, and it weighs 1,360 kilograms. There's only 7 of these ever made in the world, including a prototype version, so 6 cars, and this is the only one in the United States. Crazy amount of rear aero. Look at that titanium exhaust. Let's take a look at the interior. This has to be one of my favorite cars ever made. Now, something I didn't know is it doesn't actually have a battery. It uses a kill switch. So normally when I reviewed the Regera, it had a little Koenigsegg key that opens up the car and powers it on. This one has a bigger Koenigsegg key with a little rod at the end of it that actually plugs into this port that looks like a cigarette lighter right there, and that's what starts up the one-to-one. This is the Apollo IE, and it's one of the craziest designed hypercars ever. It's got a 6.3 liter naturally aspirated V12, making 780 horsepower and costing a cool $3 million. I saw this car first at the Geneva Motor Show many years back and actually met the owner, Norman, of the company, who, one of the highlights of my career, to be honest, told me he was a fan of my YouTube channel. Pretty cool that he designed this thing. Check out the interior of this car. I would kill to drive one of these. The gearbox sound is absolutely insane. Get a load of the dash. These crazy seats, you're laying down almost like a Formula One car. The true highlight of this car, other than that V12, is the radical design. This looks like a Batmobile if I have ever seen one. And that triple exhaust in the back, apparently just the exhaust itself cost more than a BMW M4. Here is a hypercar I have never heard of from the manufacturer Laraki. This thing is built in Morocco, and apparently they made a one-off car for the King of Morocco in full exposed carbon fiber. Apparently there are some Moroccan-inspired accents in the front grille right there. Now the King owns a full carbon fiber version of this car. This is a full replica of that vehicle. Looks pretty cool, honestly. Manual transmission. Interesting interior. Look at the rust on the shifter. Easily one of my favorite hypercars of all time, the Zonda Tricolore. They only made 3 of these, and they're essentially priceless, upwards of $7 to $10 million. 7.3 liter naturally aspirated V12 making 670 horsepower, and it only weighs 2,700 pounds. Get a load at the interior. I mean, that is an absolute work of art. The craftsmanship of this Zonda is unbelievable. Now, this comes at a cool time because Pagani just released their 3rd ever hypercar, the Utopia. Just did a video explaining all the details of that car. Got a link in the description below for that video. But man, it doesn't get much better looking than the Zonda. Honestly, despite the fact that the Huayra and the Utopia are newer, this is my favorite designed Pagani ever. That classic quad exhaust in a circular fashion, that gorgeous Tricolore badge. Not only is there an insane upstairs hypercar exhibit, when you first walk into the Petersen Museum, there are some incredible hypercars down here below. We're taking a look at the McLaren Elva. Obviously, the most defining feature of the Elva is the fact that it has no windshield. 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 making 804 horsepower, costing a cool $1.7 million. But the coolest part is the fact that you've got the wind blasting directly in your face and no windshield in the way of your view. Now, you'd think that would be super uncomfortable, but McLaren has come up with a solution in the front right here. It's actually got this little piece that extends upwards to divert the air up and over the car, so it's not right in your face and you don't get bugs or rocks smashing into your head. Obviously, probably more ideal with a helmet and goggles. Taking a look at the rear of the car, it actually has one of the most unique quad exhausts I've ever seen. It's got center exit exhaust back here, but it also has top exit dual exhausts right there. My favorite McLaren ever made, the P1, and this one is finished in full exposed carbon fiber nonetheless. Twin turbocharged V8 and hybrid powertrain, making a total of 903 horsepower. And this has to be in the top 3 best cars I've ever driven in my entire life. And as an overall experience, this pretty much is my ultimate dream car. Taking a look at that interior, pretty cool blue contrast in the seats there. I love the carbon fiber sills and then the dry carbon in the interior. dash components as well. Here we've got Ferrari's version of the Elva, the windshieldless SP1. Now, funny enough, this has 808 horsepower, which is 5 more than the McLaren. And at $1.8 million, it also costs $100,000 more than the McLaren. It comes in either SP1 or SP2 form. The SP1 is a single-seater right here, which is so cool having a single-seater hypercar. But the SP2 actually has a second seat right there. Naturally aspirated 6.5 liter V12 and one of the coolest Ferraris ever made. Right inside the front doors of the Petersen Museum, and you are greeted by 2 insane Koenigsegg hypercars. We aren't even in the hypercar exhibit yet, and they've got some of the coolest cars in the world. The Gemera is the first ever 4-seater hypercar Koenigsegg, and it features a door. Instead of having a 4-door, it's one large door that's legitimately taller than I am. It's powered by an engine called the Friendly Giant, which is a 2-liter 3-cylinder engine. It's also got 3 electric motors for a combined output of 1,700 horsepower. And one of the funniest parts about this hypercar is it has 8 cup holders, 4 in the back and 4 in the front, and even has a cool infotainment display as well. Coming to the Koenigsegg Regera, which we reviewed out in the United Kingdom, one of the craziest cars I have ever been in. Single gear, 1,600 horsepower, so fast and violent at accelerating. Looks really cool with those illuminated cup holders. Check it out, we've got the original DeLorean as well as the new DeLorean Alpha 5. How cool is this? Aston Martin AMB 001 motorcycle. That's got to be one of the sexiest looking motorcycles I have ever seen. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.